Stage 1 of building your Primary F1 racing car is to construct the chassis or framework of the car. First, let's make sure you have everything you need to get started. You should have the following: the cardboard chassis net still attached to the support sheet, 4 plastic wheels, 4 plastic axle bushes, 2 metal axles, 1 propulsion tube end cap, a short translucent plastic tube used to make axle guides, a clear plastic propulsion tube, and a translucent plastic tube, the tether guide tube. To make the chassis you will need scissors and sticky tape. Remove the car template from the support sheet. Then start the assembly process by pressing out the centres of the axle and propulsion tube holes. You might find, as I did, that it's easier to push the centres of the holes out using the point of a pencil. I'm sure you get the idea, so fasten your seatbelts, we'll just speed things up a bit. Once done, you should have 13 holes in the chassis of your car. Your next job is to work around the chassis, folding along all of the pre-marked fold lines. Notice that you don't need to fold each line flat, you just need to create a bend along the line to create the chassis shape. Be gentle, don't be too rough, and try not to tear or otherwise damage the chassis. We're now going to begin constructing the chassis, starting with the front end or nose of the car. Some of this is quite fiddly, so do pay attention. With the folds you've already made facing towards you, fold one of the side walls that will form the nose of the car to make a box shape. The small cross cut into the card should be on top. Fold the upside down T shape of card at the front over towards the back of the car and carefully insert the tab into the cross-shaped slot. The tab and the slot are a tight fit, so take your time and take care not to damage the tab. Once inserted, fold the tab over underneath the slot and apply a bit of sticky tape to hold it in place. The remaining side wall of the car has 2 semicircular tabs on it. Fold this over on top of the box you've already created. Fit the tab without a hole into the slot. The tab with the hole folds down the side of the box section. You should have 2 long tabs remaining at the front of the car. Fold these round the side wall and insert axle bushes into the holes on each side of the car's nose. These are a tight fit to get in, but once they're inserted, they'll hold the front end of the car together. The only thing left to do now is lift the triangular tabs on the bottom of the car that will help you later when correctly positioning the tether guide tube. Before constructing the rear of the car, we must make and fit the propulsion tube. Put the chassis to one side and take the clear plastic propulsion tube, this is thicker and stiffer than the tether guide tube, and the black tube cap. Fit the cap onto the tube, ensuring that it is pushed on firmly. Tape the cap in place so that it won't be blown off when you launch the car. Insert the open end of the propulsion tube through the hole in the rear end wall of the car so that the black cap is facing forwards. Pull the tube back so that the capped end can fit inside the nose section of the car, and then push the tube as far forwards as possible so that it touches the front end wall of the car. With the tube positioned centrally, apply sticky tape to it to hold it in place. Now that the propulsion tube is fitted, we can complete the rear section of the car. First, fold the side with a short front-facing tab over, sliding the tab underneath the folded walls of the nose section. Then, fold the other side of the car over, inserting the two tabs without holes into the corresponding slots. Getting these tabs in position in the slots without bending or breaking them can be a bit tricky, so don't rush. Try to push them in evenly, a little bit at a time. Remember that you need to lift the small tabs on the bottom of the car for the tether line guide tube. The tab with the hole sits outside the side wall. Finally, fold over the two long tabs at the back of the car so that the holes line up on the side. Insert axle bushes in the holes to complete the back of the car. Once the axle bushes are fitted, give the car a quick check over. If everything looks okay, you've completed the folding tasks of the chassis construction. The final stage of the construction is to add the wheels and the tether line guide tube. We'll start with the rear wheels. First, insert a wheel onto one end of an axle and push it on as far as it will go. Take care with this, as the axle is a tight fit in the wheel and a slip could result in you having a metal axle fitted to your hand. This would not be preferable. Pass the axle through the axle bushes in the car. This might require a bit of wiggling, and then fit a wheel onto the other end of the axle. You might have to lay the car on its side with the side of the wheels on the desk to push the wheels fully onto the axles. As I said, they are a tight fit. Before fitting the front axle, take the axle guide tube, that's the shorter of the two pieces you have left, measuring and cutting two pieces of tube about 11 millimeters in length. These small pieces of tube will fit onto the axle to ensure that it's always positioned centrally through the car. Then, as you did before, fit a wheel to one end of the axle. Now slide one of the short axle guide pieces onto that axle before threading the axle through the axle bushes on the car. Finally, fit the other axle guide tube and the remaining wheel. As before, put the car on its side and push down on the side of the wheel to make sure they are fitted properly. Do make sure that the wheels and axles turn freely. If the axle guide pieces are even the smallest bit too long, the wheels won't turn smoothly and the car won't be as fast as it could be. You might have to take the wheels off and trim the axle guide tube pieces down a little to do this. The very last part of the build is to fit the tether line guide tube. Turn the car upside down so that you can see the two guide tube positioning tabs. You should have lifted these slightly earlier in the build. Place the tether line guide tube on the bottom of the car across the positioning tabs so that the same amount of tube sticks out from the front and back of the car. Apply sticky tape to hold the tube in place. Congratulations! You have now completed the chassis of your car and can start to think about designing and building an aerodynamic body to fit on top of it.